What if I told you the person making that hateful comment isn't just a random stranger, but someone driven by a surprisingly common set of psychological triggers? Welcome to the chilling psychology of online trolling, where we'll explore the disturbing psychological landscape that creates and sustains online harassment. The digital world has connected us in unprecedented ways, but it's also created new opportunities for harmful behavior. Online trolling isn't just about anger or disagreement. It's a complex dance of power, anonymity, and often deep-seated insecurity. Today, we'll examine who trolls are beyond the stereotypes, what motivates their behavior, and the psychological mechanisms that make trolling both possible and, for some, psychologically rewarding. Understanding these patterns isn't just academic. It's practical knowledge that can help you recognize when you're being targeted and respond effectively. By the end of this presentation, you'll have insights into the troll mindset that few possess, giving you both protection against their tactics and a deeper understanding of a troubling aspect of human psychology that thrives in digital spaces. Because online trolling isn't random, it follows predictable patterns that, once understood, can be countered. Before we can understand the psychology of trolling, we need to clearly define what trolling actually is. Online trolling goes far beyond simple disagreement or criticism. It's a deliberate form of digital predation with specific characteristics. At its core, trolling involves intentional provocation designed to elicit emotional responses. The troll isn't interested in meaningful exchange, but in causing distress or disruption. They often post inflammatory, offensive, or off-topic content specifically calculated to derail conversations and communities. What distinguishes trolling from ordinary negative online behavior is intent. A person who disagrees strongly or even rudely isn't necessarily trolling. The true troll acts with deliberate malice, often targeting specific individuals persistently over time. The methods vary widely, from relatively mild provocations like deliberate misinterpretation of statements to severe harassment including threats, hate speech, and coordinated attacks. Some trolling is opportunistic, while other forms are carefully planned campaigns of harassment. It's important to note that internet culture has somewhat normalized certain types of trolling, treating it as inevitable or even humorous. This normalization creates an environment where trolling can escalate because minor forms are dismissed as just internet culture. Understanding this spectrum helps us recognize trolling in its early stages before it escalates to more damaging forms. As we move forward, keep in mind that all trolling shares a common thread: the manipulation of others' emotions for personal satisfaction, regardless of the harm caused. What kind of person engages in trolling behavior? Research in online psychology has revealed fascinating connections between trolling and a cluster of personality traits known as the dark tetrad, an extension of the better-known dark triad that adds sadism as a fourth component. The first trait is narcissism, characterized by excessive self-interest, grandiosity, and a constant need for admiration. Narcissistic individuals often troll when they perceive their inflated self-image has been threatened or when they seek attention, regardless of whether that attention is positive or negative. The second trait is Machiavellianism, named after the political philosopher who advocated manipulative tactics. Those high in this trait view others as tools to be used for personal gain. They're strategic manipulators who calculate their trolling for maximum impact with minimum risk to themselves. Psychopathy, the third trait, involves reduced empathy and increased impulsivity. Psychopathic traits allow trolls to cause harm without experiencing the remorse or empathy that would normally inhibit such behavior. They simply don't feel the emotional impact of their actions on others. The fourth, and perhaps most relevant trait, is sadism, deriving pleasure from causing suffering. Research by psychologists like Erin Buckles has found that everyday sadism has the strongest correlation with trolling behaviors. Put simply, many trolls enjoy causing pain, and online environments provide consequence-free opportunities to do so. What's particularly unsettling is that these traits exist on a spectrum. Many trolls aren't clinical psychopaths or narcissists, but ordinary people with somewhat elevated levels of these traits who find that online environments allow these darker aspects of their personality to emerge without the social consequences they would face offline. A crucial element in understanding trolling psychology is the transformative effect of anonymity. Psychologists call this the online disinhibition effect, a concept developed by Dr. John Suler that explains how digital environments fundamentally change human behavior. This effect has several components that create the perfect psychological conditions for trolling. First is invisible authority. The absence of direct supervision or authority figures online removes the immediate social consequences that would normally regulate behavior. The asynchronous nature of online communication also contributes. The time delays between actions and responses diminish the immediate feedback that helps people regulate their behavior in face-to-face interactions. Another fascinating component is what Suler calls solipsistic introjection, the tendency to create imagined personas for others online. Without physical cues, trolls can dehumanize their targets, seeing them as characters rather than real people with genuine emotions. Perhaps most significantly, dissociative anonymity allows people to separate their online actions from their real-world identity. This creates a psychological disconnection where trolls can tell themselves, "That's not the real me," absolving themselves of responsibility. These factors combine to create what social psychologists call de-individuation, a state where people lose their sense of individual identity and responsibility within a group. This phenomenon was first observed in studies of crowd behavior, but it reaches new heights in anonymous online environments. The result is a perfect psychological storm where normal social inhibitions dissolve, empathy decreases, and behavior emerges that the same person would never consider acceptable in their offline life. Understanding this effect helps explain why ordinary people can transform into trolls when given anonymity and distance from consequences. At the heart of most trolling behavior lies a fundamental psychological motivation, the desire for power and control. This motivation manifests in several ways that help explain why trolling can become psychologically rewarding and even addictive for some individuals. When a troll successfully provokes an emotional reaction, they receive immediate validation of their influence and power. The ability to affect someone's emotional state, to make them angry, upset, or defensive, creates a sense of impact that may be missing from other areas of the troll's life. Disrupting conversations and communities also grants a sense of power. By derailing productive discussions or creating chaos in previously functional spaces, trolls demonstrate their ability to control social environments, even if that control is purely destructive. Many trolls specifically target influential figures or respected community members. This strategic targeting provides heightened visibility and allows them to feel they're on equal footing with people of higher status by forcing these individuals to respond to their provocations. Perhaps most significantly, trolling often compensates for perceived powerlessness in offline life. Individuals who feel marginalized, overlooked, or lacking control in their daily existence may turn to trolling as a way to experience power in at least one domain of their lives. The quote on screen comes from a research interview with an anonymous troll who candidly admitted, "I feel powerful when I make someone lose control." This statement perfectly captures the psychological reward that drives much trolling behavior. The intoxicating feeling of exerting control over others' emotional states from a position of safety and anonymity. This power dynamic creates a particularly destructive interaction where the troll's sense of empowerment directly depends on their victim's distress. A zero-sum game where the troll wins precisely to the extent that their target suffers. What maintains trolling behavior over time is a powerful psychological feedback loop that continually reinforces the troll's actions. Understanding this cycle helps explain why trolling can become a persistent pattern rather than an isolated incident. The first component of this loop is attention. Even negative responses provide validation and attention to trolls. When people respond with outrage, defense, or attempts to reason, the troll receives confirmation that their actions have impact, feeding the desire for power we discussed previously. The emotional reward is equally important. Trolls experience a neurological hit, a rush of pleasure similar to other addictive behaviors, when they successfully provoke reactions. This creates a pattern similar to other compulsive behaviors, where the troll seeks to recreate this emotional high. Social proof plays a crucial role as well. Many trolls operate within communities that celebrate and encourage their behavior. These echo chambers provide validation, techniques, and reinforcement that normalize trolling and position it as clever or even heroic rather than harmful. Perhaps most concerning is the skill-building aspect. Over time, trolls learn through trial and error which tactics generate the largest responses from which types of targets. They become more efficient and effective at causing distress, developing a repertoire of techniques tailored to different situations and personalities. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle. Each successful trolling incident provides attention, emotional reward, social validation, and improved techniques, all of which increase the likelihood and effectiveness of future trolling behavior. The cycle is particularly difficult to break because most common responses to trolling, outrage, detailed rebuttals, emotional reactions, actually strengthen the feedback loop by providing exactly what the troll seeks. This is why understanding troll psychology is essential for developing effective countermeasures that interrupt rather than reinforce this cycle. When we picture internet trolls, specific stereotypes often come to mind, perhaps teenage boys in basements or socially maladjusted loners. But research reveals a more complex and concerning reality about who engages in trolling behavior. Contrary to popular belief, trolling is not limited to teenagers or young adults. Studies have found trolls spanning all age demographics, including middle-aged and older individuals. While younger users may be overrepresented, trolling behavior exists across the age spectrum. Gender distributions show trolling is more commonly associated with male users, but female trolling is increasingly documented. The behavior manifests somewhat differently across genders, but the underlying psychological mechanisms appear consistent. Social connectivity offers interesting insights. Many trolls do struggle with forming satisfying connections offline, using online aggression as a substitute for healthier social interaction. However, research also finds trolls who maintain normal or even extensive social networks in their offline lives. Personal history often includes experiences of being bullied or marginalized, suggesting that some trolling represents a form of displaced aggression or an attempt to reclaim power after experiencing powerlessness. This creates a troubling cycle where victims become perpetrators. Perhaps most surprisingly, cognitive assessments often reveal trolls possessing above-average intelligence but poor emotional regulation. They understand others well enough to manipulate them effectively, but lack the empathy or self-regulation to channel these abilities constructively. The most concerning finding, represented in the quote on screen, is that many trolls are otherwise ordinary people who behave differently online than they would in person. This suggests that under the right conditions of anonymity and disinhibition, a disturbing percentage of normal users might engage in trolling behaviors, making the line between trolls and non-trolls thinner than we'd like to believe. While trolling might be dismissed by some as just online behavior, research reveals its psychological impact can be profound and lasting. Understanding these effects helps us recognize trolling as a significant form of harm rather than a minor digital annoyance. Victims frequently experience clinical symptoms, including anxiety, depression, and even PTSD-like responses, particularly following sustained campaigns of harassment. These aren't merely momentary upsets, but can develop into persistent mental health challenges requiring professional intervention. A common response is withdrawal from online communities and platforms. Victims often reduce their online presence, limit their participation, or leave platforms entirely. This represents a significant loss of voice and opportunity in an increasingly digital world. Self-censorship becomes a protective mechanism, as victims learn to avoid expressing opinions or sharing content that might attract trolling. This chilling effect leads to diminished self-expression and authenticity online, fundamentally changing how people present themselves. Trust in online interactions becomes damaged, sometimes irreparably. Victims report lasting suspicion of new online connections and hesitancy to engage meaningfully in digital spaces, affecting their ability to form communities and relationships online. Beyond psychological impacts, trolling can have severe real-world consequences through practices like doxing, revealing private information, swatting, false police reports, and reputation damage affecting employment and relationships. These consequences extend the harm from digital to physical realms. The collective impact goes beyond individual victims to affect entire communities. Online spaces can become increasingly toxic, driving away diverse voices and reducing productive discourse. This represents a significant cultural and social loss, as valuable perspectives disappear from digital conversation. What makes these impacts particularly troubling is their disproportionate distribution. Research shows marginalized groups face more frequent and severe trolling, effectively amplifying existing social inequalities and creating digital environments that are less accessible to already underrepresented voices. With a deeper understanding of troll psychology, we can develop more effective defenses that protect our well-being while denying trolls the satisfaction they seek. These strategies focus on psychological resilience rather than direct engagement. The first defense is recognizing the bait. By understanding common trolling tactics, you can identify when someone is genuinely engaging versus attempting to provoke a reaction. This awareness creates a crucial moment of choice before responding impulsively. Emotional distancing is equally important, remembering that trolling comments reflect on the troll, not on you. Their words aren't accurate assessments of your worth or ideas, but projections of their own psychological needs. This perspective helps reduce the emotional impact of their attacks. Strategic disengagement represents perhaps the most powerful response. By denying trolls the attention and emotional reactions they crave, you interrupt their reward cycle. This isn't about letting harassment go unchallenged, but about responding in ways that don't feed the troll's psychological needs. Community support provides essential protection against isolation. Building networks of supportive online connections creates resilience against trolling attempts. These communities can validate experiences, provide perspective, and sometimes actively intervene against harassment. Platform tools like blocking, reporting, and privacy settings form an important technical layer of defense. Using these features isn't admitting defeat, but strategically managing your digital environment to prevent harmful interactions. Remember the fundamental psychological insight. Trolls primarily seek emotional reactions. When you understand this core motivation, you can make conscious choices about whether and how to respond, rather than providing the exact reaction the troll is attempting to provoke. These defenses require practice and aren't always easy to implement, especially during upsetting interactions. But developing these psychological skills creates lasting resilience, not just against trolling, but against various forms of manipulation, both online and offline. Addressing online trolling effectively requires action at multiple levels, from individual responses to societal approaches. By understanding the psychological foundations of trolling, we can develop more nuanced and effective interventions. At the individual level, developing digital resilience is crucial. This includes the defense strategies we've discussed, but also cultivating empathy and perspective-taking, even in digital environments where these qualities are often undermined. Individual awareness of how online environments affect behavior can help people monitor and regulate their own responses. Communities play a vital role by creating and enforcing clear behavioral norms. Effective online spaces establish expectations, model constructive interaction, and implement appropriate consequences for harmful behavior. The most successful communities balance open expression with protection from harassment. Platforms bear significant responsibility through their design choices. Features that encourage empathy, provide cooling-off periods before posting, or reduce the rewards for provocative content can subtly discourage trolling behavior. How interactions are structured fundamentally shapes behavior. At the broader societal level, digital citizenship education becomes essential. Teaching people of all ages about online psychology, ethical digital interaction, and the real impacts of online behavior creates a foundation for healthier digital culture. The quote on screen captures an important truth. The internet mirrors humanity with all its flaws and potential. Online spaces reflect and sometimes amplify existing human tendencies, both positive and negative. By understanding the psychological mechanisms behind trolling behavior, we can work toward digital environments that bring out our better qualities while minimizing the expression of our worst impulses. This isn't just about preventing harm, though that's certainly important. It's about creating online spaces where meaningful connection, authentic expression, and productive discourse can flourish, fulfilling the Internet's original promise as a tool for human advancement rather than a weapon for harassment and harm.